Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 10 to 1 session with Mary Novakovich. Mary, welcome here today. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. Mary is a freelance journalist and travel writer, and some of the titles include The Guardian, The Telegraph, The Independent. You're also contributing travel editor at The Lady, and you also write for the Evening Standard. Your specialities are France, Italy, Croatia, Serbia, food, skiing and hiking. Welcome, Mary. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yes, good. Thank you very much. Lovely to talk to you today. Find out a bit more about how you like being pitched to and how PRs can work with you better. So firstly, how's lockdown been for you? Obviously being so immersed in travel, things have been quite tricky.
They have been extremely tricky. Yes, yeah. It was a very strange time for me because in March I still had a lot of work coming in, and that sort of kept me going and sustained me. And a few other sections were still running, and had commissions that were still standing, and so everyone talking about being bored and making banana bread and whatever. So I didn't have a chance to do that. Kept steadily working, but then things started, to take a dive, unfortunately. Sections shrunk, and commissioning budgets disappeared, and so it's and thank goodness for luckily being self-employed, I was able to get the government grant as well, and that's being immensely helpful because we don't know what things are going to be like. It's picking up slowly,
good,
but it's just trying to keep a combination of trying to keep on top of all the news things so that you can pitch topical stories, but also, like for example, with all the travel restrictions, very early on, editors are saying we can't have anything that involves like a non-UK destination. So of course, everyone then piled in with pitches for UK. And that
Cornwall, Dorset, they're going to be oversaturated this year with tourism.
Absolutely. So that avenue was closed quite quickly, and then it was all sort of looking back and pondering over various trips past, and philosophical writing about travel and travel books and all sorts of things. And of course, that got used up quite quickly as well. So it's been watching things develop one tiny step at a time, but also being part of a very large pack of freelancers. And so, I mean, things I said, things have picked up. I seem to have had a streak this week, in the past couple of weeks actually, where I had a feature in Wanderlust magazine that had been commissioned back in February, and it was about Croatia, funnily enough, because one of my subjects. And then a piece I'd written last summer, which I then had to renose a bit for the Telegraph, was out again on Croatia, and another piece in tomorrow's Guardian, again on Croatia.
So Croatia is a popular place to go.
Well, it is, and I mean, my parents are born there, so I spent a lot of time.
Very well.
Absolutely. So it's one of my specialist regions, and it's been, I mean, I love going there, love writing about it. It's a beautiful place. But the thing that's been quite useful is that it was one of the earlier countries to start to open its borders.
Yes.
And didn't require quarantine there. And just watching editors become more amenable and open to various pitches and seeing which countries were slowly creeping on their lists. And Croatia, luckily, was one of them. And I had done a couple of newsy stories as well, talking to people in lockdown in Dubrovnik, one of the biggest tourist hotspots in the Mediterranean, and no one was there, and things like that. So as far as PRs were concerned, it's really difficult for them, because I've been watching my inbox at the beginning. People didn't know what to send, or what to pitch, and unfortunately, things like anything with a top 10 Instagrammable XYZ, doesn't interest me at all.
Okay.
And I was getting quite a lot of those.
Yes. It must be quite hard for PRs as well as journalists to not find angles per se, but to write about destinations and promote them in a positive way, but also bearing in mind that, like, government travel advice, there are so many other things you now have to include in your stories about, like, hand washing, masks, anti-bac. I hope sometime soon that kind of travel stories will regain an element of normality in the way that they're written and presented.
I think that's going to be some time to come.
Yeah.
I can't really see that changing just yet. We still have parts of the world where we can't travel easily,
Sure.
and we shouldn't be traveling easily as well. And we haven't seen. I mean, people have been flying out. They've been found packed aeroplanes, and others with hardly anyone in the planes.
Yes.
So nothing is. I'm not sure even months is going to make much of a difference, because we will have spikes in cases.
Yeah, definitely. How do you think coronavirus has changed people's outlook on sustainable travel? Do you think that people, as soon as we are able to fly everywhere and restrictions are lifted, do you think people are going to kind of forget about all the about flying sustainably and being mindful when traveling, because they're just so desperate to get on the plane? Or do you think that they will have learned whilst being at home, basically?
I'm being a little bit cynical here, but I think people who never really cared about it will carry on not caring about it.
Yeah.
Those who do care about it will care about it even more deeply, because as I said, we've seen, the waters of Venice become clearer, and air pollution going down, and people reclaiming their cities that were so full of, like, tens of thousands of people every single day. Dubrovnik being a very good case in point. The city walls were covered in grass and weeds because people weren't walking on them, and people were loving the fact that they had their city back. They had no money,
Yeah.
not much money. But I think the sustainability side of travel is more important than ever. But I think there will still be, I think the majority of people won't. They're not thinking about it now, and I don't really think it would have penetrated to a lot of them.
Well, I hope over time that might change.
It might do. I'm really hoping that people would have taken this time to look around them, because people have had more time to do things like going walking and discovering what's on their own patch, and seeing nature. We had fantastic weather for so much of the time.
Oh, so gorgeous, wasn't it? And it's been so quiet, and peaceful. I don't live in London, but even here I feel that at night it's so much kind of quieter, and which is lovely.
Absolutely, yes. I'm in Hertfordshire, so the same sort of thing. But I think I'm hoping that there's a percentage of people who actually had a bit of an awakening over this.
I agree. What is the best way to pitch to you? Do you like press releases, or all in the body of an email? Do you like images within the email as your inbox constantly full, or do you prefer Dropbox? What is the best way for a PR to get in touch with you with a story?
I have to say, it sort of depends on PRs and what they're working on, who their clients are, because I don't limit myself to European destinations. I just end up writing about them more often than anything else, because I've become the go-to person on whatever countries, and then other places don't really have a chance for a look in, which is a shame, because I would like to see much more. So PRs I work with regularly, they sort of, actually, it's a pretty good rule of thumb. I think PRs the scattergun approach can work in some ways, but a lot of times it doesn't. I mean, I read all my press releases, but I won't act on most of them, because the information might be interesting, but I won't be needing it. Some I'll keep on file, but others I'll just read and then delete. But as far as the information that's in there, I do prefer press releases in the body of an email. Images, if they want to add a link, that's perfectly fine. That's always good, because I can then pass that on to whatever editor I'm working for at the time. And I think some people put things in a PDF attached, which isn't always very helpful.
Yes.
And one important thing I have to say, which is I've always said to PRs before, is if you're talking about a hotel, put it in the top line what country it's in.
Okay.
I've had
Good
that. I've
tip.
had so many hotels where it's not obvious from the name what country it's on the very, very bottom of the email. After I plouged through
Yeah.
a lot of
Spent 5
information,
minutes reading it.
exactly.
Okay, so your top tip is to put the country and the body of the email at the very top.
And also just paying attention to the sort of things I write. I mean, not everyone can follow every writer that they are emailing. I understand that perfectly. But I think when you see some people writing, pretty much 95% of what they do is certain things, certain publications, certain subjects, certain formats, then keep in mind of all of that when you're targeting them for a press release.
Yes.
And because that's when I get people following up.
Okay.
Where they will email me 2 or 3 times, because sometimes I might not have paid attention to the second one because I'm up against it.
Yeah.
But it's always, unfortunately, it's always been over a press release that's totally irrelevant to me, because they don't look at what I write. And I feel
you've already covered it.
Yes, well, yeah, exactly. Or the number of times I've been asked, "Oh, I see you've just been to such and such place in France. Would you like to go to this place in France too?" Which is like, no, sorry,
I've just been.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to be a PR, and I think I was definitely guilty of that on the odd occasion. And actually speaking to all of the journalists now, I kind of lie awake at night thinking, oh gosh, how many people did I email saying how much I loved their feature on Greece, thinking I was being like really keen, but actually inviting them back to Greece probably, is the worst thing you can do, really.
Unless it's a totally different angle, and places like Greece, for example, with all the different islands and a lot of different destinations. And as I said, I write about Croatia all the time.
Yeah.
But when I've just come back from a place, and then I get the PR from a hotel for the place I've just visited, saying, "Would you like to?" Is it? I've just been.
Yeah.
But no, going back to the following up thing, I do get. I feel bad having. I'm never impolite when I respond. I just say, "Well, thanks very much. I did receive your emails. I wasn't able to make use of them, and if I had been able, I would have got in touch."
Oh, that's a nice way to put it, though.
Yeah, but so just think about what you're emailing me.
Yeah.
And think about what I'm writing, if you have a chance to. And I know everyone's under a huge amount of pressure. I know it's a lot of time to take. But if you're taking the time to do the follow-up, then take the time to, research who the journalist is that you're emailing.
I wanted to ask you about press trips. What gets you on a press trip, apart from obviously you liking the angle and securing a commission? And should PRs be mindful of when they invite you? Do you only go midweek? Do you prefer going at weekends? Yeah.
Well, I don't do a lot of group press trips. I do a lot of individual.
So individual.
Yeah. Although I have done a few group press trips that have been really good fun. And one thing I do a lot of is ski group press trips, because that one it more or less mimics what a lot of people's experiences are when they go skiing. They go skiing in a gang,
with their
do
friends,
things together.
yes.
Whereas a lot of press trips, they're just too structured to fit in as many of their participating clients as possible, and no one is going to be able to have that sort of experience. And some are actually very, very, very well organized, but others try to cram in too much, and you can't
come back exhausted.
Absolutely, you can't write about all the 10-15 places that they've sent you to in the course of a day.
Yeah.
Let alone have time to make your notes and do social media about it. But so generally, I prefer individual ones, because I also work with my husband, who's a photographer.
Okay.
So it's very good when PRs understand that there's a value of having both together, the words and pictures package. And others say, "No, sorry, we can't bring partners." I say, "Oh, well, he's sort of working too,"
Yeah.
And that's fine. It's understandable, and I understand that perfectly. Budgets are very, very tight, but there's always something that's coming up which both of us can work on. So my calendar can get full quite quickly.
Yeah.
But also, when I do get invitations for press trips, I understand perfectly when you've got clients who are very disorganized and take a very long time and expect a PR to come up with top flight journalists with 5 days notice. I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
I've also seen it happen enough times when, you might say yes, and then they come back to you. I mean, this hasn't actually happened to me personally, but enough journalists I know, they're obviously again, a lot of people are approached, and people come back and say, well, essentially, it's your publication's not big enough. You want someone better. And so that, I said, that's never happened to me, but I know a lot of other writers who've been in that situation.
Yes. Brilliant. Mary, that's our 10 minutes up. I told you it went quickly. Thank you so much for your time today. And I hope that's been helpful to everyone watching.